welcome back to my kitchen. Here we are again, but it is 6 o'clock, it is a Friday night, so it's time for Illuminate. You've probably heard by now that I'm not feeling very well. Actually, I feel basically fine. It feels a bit like I've got a cold, but I tested positive just the other day, and that means I've got COVID. So that means I can't come to Illuminate, and Anika also can't come because she's in the same house as me. So we have to run Illuminate online for this evening, but hopefully we will be back next week. However, just because we're not able to be there in church with you guys doesn't mean that you guys can't play games, doesn't mean that you can't do a craft, doesn't mean you can't listen to a talk on the next bit of Jonah, and it doesn't mean you can't pray. So all of those things are coming right up. Just stay tuned, and we've got all of those things in this video. Now at any point, if you want to pause the video to go and do something else, you're absolutely welcome to do that. So you'll even hear me say, pause and go make your craft, or pause and you can go and play your game for as long as you like to play that game until you get fed up and then you want to come back and listen to the next bit. It's over to you to be able to pause it when you want, so we hope you have lots of fun. So why don't we get the things we need for our first game. And for our first game, you're going to need a parent, so just go and get any parent, one of your parents, or an older brother or an older sister, and you're going to need their phone, and their phone will have to have an app on it that can record sound. I think most phones will have that, so that should be quite easy for them to find. Something like a voice recorder, or you could even do it on WhatsApp as well. Why don't you go and get those things, and then pause it here, and you can come straight back when you've got those, and I'll tell you what we're going to do. Okay, hopefully you've got a phone that you can use with an app on it that can record noises, and this is what we're going to play. We're going to play Sound Safari. You're going to go on Safari around your house, and you're going to record 10 sounds on that phone. Probably it's easiest to do them one by one. So you might go and you might record the sound of the washing machine going. You might record the sound of an apple being crunched, those kind of things. After you've recorded the sound, you then need to take your phone back to your parent, you need to play them the sound, and you need to see if they can guess what the sound was and see how many they get right out of 10. Once you've done that, swap places. Your parent can then go off and record the sounds and see if you can guess what they are. There's just two rules. Number one, you're not allowed any flushing sounds, and that's because of rule number 2. You need to take good care of the phone, and we don't want anybody dropping a phone in the toilet. What a disaster that would be. Okay, pause it here, go away, play the game for as long as you like to play the game, and when you come back or when you're finished, I'll be right here ready for the next bit. Okay, well I hope you had fun playing Sound Safari. Who won out of you guys? Let us know somehow. It's an interesting game, isn't it? You have to listen really carefully to the noises to guess what they are. And one thing we've seen with Jonah so far is that he doesn't listen very well. Actually, he chooses not to listen when God says, go to Nineveh and give them a second chance, give them my message a second chance. Jonah chooses not to listen, and he goes the other way to try and escape God instead. Well, we're going to think a bit more about Nineveh tonight, and so we're going to make, for our craft today, some little buildings. Here's a building that I made earlier. We'll head over to the sunroom now, and I'll show you how to make one of these. So I've got paint, I've got a cardboard tube and some different bits of coloured card. I've got a Sharpie, glue, scissors and a paintbrush. And I'm going to start by painting my cardboard tube any colour I like, really, your favourite colour. I've picked yellow, but you can choose whatever you like. So I've painted it all the way around, and I'm going to put that to one side to dry. And then what I'm going to do next is get some red card, and I'm going to cut a rectangle and then fold that rectangle in half, and I'm going to draw a little pattern on here to look like roof tiles, and again you can draw any pattern. I'm going to put that to one side, then I'm going to cut out some small little rectangles, and these are going to be windows, and then I'm going to get my other coloured card and cut out a door shape, and you can pick any colour card that you like for any of these bits, so it's up to you. Draw a little door handle on, then I'm going to paint some light reflections on the windows, which you'll see in a moment. go. And I'm going to leave it all to dry in the sunroom. And then from there, we're just going to stick everything on. So there goes the door, there goes the windows, then we're going to put the roof on with glue at the front and the back. And there you have it, one of the buildings from Nineveh. But of course, to make a whole city of Nineveh, you might want to make a lot more buildings than this. So Jonah didn't listen to God. He decided he didn't want to go to Nineveh. And last week we saw that he ended up in the sea, right deep down towards the bottom of the ocean. But he was swallowed by a fish, and the fish swam back up to the surface after 3 days and vomited Jonah up on the beach. So we're going to play a little game now to see if you can help Jonah get to Nineveh. So to play this game, you're going to need another cardboard tube. Try and get a really sturdy one. The stronger it is, the better it will be. This one's not that good because it's a bit flimsy. The stronger and more rigid it is, the better this is going to work. You'll also need some tape, preferably masking tape that you can draw on. You'll also need 2 rubber bands that are about the same size as each other. A match, which you might want to get a parent to light and blow out for you. A pin, which you have to be careful with. And some scissors, which you might need to be careful with as well. And finally, you're going to need a bit of tissue paper or a marshmallow or a something light. And you'll also need your craft from earlier. If you want to pause it here, go get those things, and then I'll tell you how to play our game. Okay, we're going to start off with the cardboard tube. And I've got some scissors, and I'm going to measure how much I need using my middle finger, my longest finger. Just see how far down you can get it. So you want it to be about this long as your middle finger. So I'm going to cut a line about there. And the easiest way to do that is very carefully to put my middle finger in and chop to it like that. And I'm going to cut all the way around this tube. I'll try and do it on camera for you because that's going to be more useful if you can see it. Okay, and I've got some tape. I'm just going to use the tape to really secure the ends to try and make this tube as sturdy as possible. So I'm going to go okay, and there it is. I've taped up both ends. I've also drawn on it to try and make it look a little bit like a fish. It's not amazing. So that is part 1. I'm going to put that to one side. Then with this bit that we cut off, we're going to tape this so that it's actually a bit smaller and can fit down in this tube, like so. So we need to tape it so that it can do that. So let's do lots and lots of tape around here, and same again. Okay, for this next bit you're going to need a grown-up's help because I'm going to use a pin, which is very, very sharp, and you don't want to hurt yourself. And I'm just going to put a hole through the side here. Okay, and I'm going to do that on the other side too, so on the opposite side. And then I'm going to take a match. I'm just going to take this match here. I've already lit this and blown it out, so you might want to get your parent to do that too. And I'm going to push it through those holes that we've just made, all the way through, so it goes all the way through, which I'll do off camera because it's quite tricky. And now this shouldn't drop down the middle anymore, because the match will hold it in place, which is good. Next up, we want to take some scissors, and we want to just put, cut very, very small lines in 4 places at the top where the mouth of our fish is going to be. So we're going to do one about here and one about there. I'm going to do it on the other side as well, and that is going to be our anchor point for an elastic band in a minute. So let's do that. Okay, and now with our elastic bands, we're going to very carefully, without bending the cardboard as much as it's possible, slot them in the gaps. So you should have your elastic bands hooked into place around the fish's mouth like that. These are going to pull down here and loop around the matches. So if I put the match there like that, hopefully you can see this. Now this is going to act, hopefully, a bit like a cannon. So we're going to put that to one side. And then we need to make a cannonball. If you've got marshmallows, a small marshmallow, they would work wonderfully for this. You might be able to find other things like cotton wool balls, or other things. If you haven't got anything, you can make a ball out of scrunched up. I've done scrunched up kitchen roll, and I've just wrapped it round and round and round a load in tape, so that it will fit through my tube. So it just needs to fit through the end of the tube. It needs to actually be able to drop the whole way through, ideally. So I don't know if you can see, but hopefully this will just drop the whole way through like that. You put it in at the top, drop it, and it comes out. That's the ideal size. So any bigger than that, you're going to need to chop it down, make it smaller. Okay, let's see if this works. So using your catapult and your craft from before, we've got the town of Nineveh. This is the fish that rescued Jonah from the sea. Here he is. This is Jonah. He's all in a big ball of fish saliva, which is why he doesn't really look like a person. And that over there is Nineveh. And we need to use our fish catapult to get Jonah to Nineveh. So we can put we can put Jonah into the fish's mouth, like he's been swallowed. And let me move this back a bit. Using our catapult, we should be able to pull this bit back, hopefully without the elastic band slipping. Maybe we can actually use the end of the matches there, that's the best way. Pull this back and let go, and it should fire. That wasn't what happened. Hey! Jonah's arrived, and he's knocked the roof off one of the houses. Whoopsie. Now you've got your Jonah spewing fish launcher thing, you're ready to play the game. So put Nineveh down somewhere, and then try and hit it from half a step away. Then take a step backwards, try and hit it from there. Take another step backwards, try and hit it from there. See how far away you can get before you start missing Nineveh, and see how many times you can hit it in a row without missing. And why not have a competition with your brothers, your sisters, your parents, anyone else that's there in the house with you. Pause this video, go and enjoy the game, and once you're finished, come back and we'll go on to the next thing. Okay, well I hope you enjoyed the game. Hopefully you had lots of fun playing that. I'm going to hand over to Anika now, and she's going to tell us what happened next in the story of Jonah. Let's find out.
Hello! See if at home you can remember where we left off in our story about Jonah. I'll give you a clue. If I was standing next to him right now,
I would be going like this.
Maybe you remember, I might send Jonah right back into the sea for a good old bath because he was just vomited up by a fish. Talk about humiliating. In case you haven't been with us at Illuminate, or just need a refresher, here's our story so far. God told Jonah to go warn the Ninevites that because they disobeyed him, he would destroy them. Remember the naughty Ninevites? Well, Jonah showed us that he was just as bad as them. Jonah also disobeyed God. He didn't listen to God's instructions very well, so he probably wouldn't have been good at the game Sound Safari, which you guys just played. As a result of his disobedience, God nearly destroyed him with a storm. But then, God rescued him with a fish, which after 3 days vomited him up onto dry land, just like the game we just played. This was Jonah's second chance to obey God. After nearly destroying Jonah in the storm for turning away and disobeying, God then saved him so that he would turn back and obey. Spoiler alert, this is the kind of saving that we're about to see God do for the Ninevites as well. Let's continue in our story. "Get up," came God's voice to the stinky, dazed Jonah. "Go to Nineveh and give them a message from me." This was the second time that God told Jonah to go warn the Ninevites. This time God told him to get up, go, and proclaim a message. What does that mean, to proclaim something? It means to speak up about something important or to announce something in public. It's like when Mike or I shout excitedly, "The post is here! The post is here!" because it's the most exciting thing that happens while we're self-isolating. What about you? Have you ever proclaimed something? What sorts of messages do you proclaim? You can pause here if you'd like to talk about it with your family. The message that God gave Jonah to proclaim was this: after 40 days, Nineveh will be overthrown. I'm guessing that none of your examples of proclaiming were you telling an entire city that they would be overthrown. Jonah was bringing news of destruction to an entire city because of their disobedience, which was evil in God's sight. Now, Nineveh was very large. It would take a lot of toilet paper rolls to make a city as big as Nineveh. So it took Jonah 3 days to proclaim the warning. Let's pause for a moment and imagine the Ninevites when they heard this terrible warning. How do you imagine the Ninevites responded? Before I knew what happened, I imagined that the Ninevites would laugh at Jonah in disbelief, or scoff, or be annoyed. "Who does this guy think he is?" they might say. What about you? How do you think you might have responded? Well, the Bible saves no time at all to tell us how the Ninevites responded. It says, "The Ninevites believed God." Everyone, from the lowest peasant to the high king, believed God when they heard the proclamation. And all the people of Nineveh were deeply upset about their disobedience. They stopped disobeying by turning away from their evil ways of living, and they cried out to God for forgiveness. They hoped that He might give them a second chance. Remember that our story began with God seeing all the evil of the Ninevites, for they disobeyed Him. Now He saw them instantly turn from their evil ways and obey Him. It was as instant as flicking on a light switch. One moment, Nineveh was in complete darkness, and the next moment, the lights flicked on across the city. And they saw their evil and were deeply upset by it. So they turned from evil to obey God instead. Because they cried out to God and obeyed, God forgave the Ninevites instead of destroying them. Nineveh was on the verge of being overthrown by God into terrible destruction. But instead of destroying them, God saved them. By sending Jonah to proclaim a warning, God turned the Ninevites away from their disobedience and turned them to obedience. When they asked for forgiveness, God saved the city from the darkness it was in and instantly brought it into light. We're going to fast forward in time now to Jesus' day, about 800 years after Jonah's day. We find Jesus speaking with some very religious men who felt very good about themselves because of how well they followed all the rules. Actually, they were quite arrogant and thought that God was rather pleased with them. You know goody two-shoes? Well, they were something like goody, goody, goody 10 shoes. Pretend for a moment that you are one of these goody-goody Pharisees with 10 shoes or something, and you think quite highly of yourself. Jesus was speaking with these Pharisees, and He said something like this to them. You might think that you're a really good person and that the Ninevites were really naughty. But God isn't interested in that. The Ninevites believed God's word and instantly asked God for forgiveness. When God proclaims destruction on you, and you don't cry out to God for forgiveness, then the Ninevites who did cry out will show that you have not turned to God and therefore deserve destruction. Jesus' warning to the Pharisees is a warning for all of us. It's easy to think that we're just good enough to escape God's eye, maybe a bit like Jonah did. Or maybe you feel more like a Ninevite and can't imagine how God could ever forgive you. But God did forgive the Ninevites, and He did forgive Jonah. And He has forgiven so many other people who have turned to Him and asked for forgiveness. Because of Jesus, God has more than enough forgiveness to go around. I'll pray now. You can pray along with me in your head if you'd like, if you agree with what I pray. Prayer goes. Dear God, thank you for giving us examples of people like Jonah and the Ninevites to help us know you better. Thank you for hearing us when we cry out for forgiveness. Please forgive us of all the bad things that we do and think every day. And please help us turn to you for help to obey. Amen.
4. Thank you, Anika, and thank you so much for all of you for watching this evening. Well, that is all we have time for this week. I hope you had fun despite not being able to be in person. All being well, hopefully we will be back next week in person in the church. So hopefully we will see you next week. Otherwise, have a great weekend, have a great rest of your Friday evening, and have a great week at school. Bye everyone!